Good morning, everybody. Today we will discuss the further topics in the syllabus on unions and pointers dynamic memory allocation functions for the day. In the previous class, we discussed about structures, self-referential structures, nested structures, etc. So, just to revive what we discussed in the previous class, we'll go through what we discussed in previous class. We defined what a structure is and how do you define a structure with a struct keyword, name and the different members and their respective data types, and we illustrated through simple programs on how a structure is going to be working with. How do you define, how do you declare a variable, and how do you scan and print the respective member variables with dot operator, and if it is a array of structures, how do you access the member variables, and how do you define a new user defined data type when you for a structure. Like here in this case it is human being, which is going to be defined as a new data type which is going to be concluding with two different member variables as name and age, and followed by we defined a simple program where it is going to be an employee or human being with name, age and salary, and we illustrated through simple programs about how structure can be used, and also we discussed about type def with respect to another example like a telephone, where how a subscriber and his landline number are going to be clubbed into a telephone, and how it is going to be defined as a new user defined data type. And also we discussed how to find equality between two structure variables. Here the person1, person2 are named variables of the type human being, which is a structure. So here we discussed how the deep comparison happens in the structure. So followed by we discussed we can also define a pointer to structure, as a pointer can be defined for a normal variable. In today's class we will discuss in detail about the pointer variables. Followed by, if you are going to define with a pointer variable which points to a structure. Here in this case PTR is going to point to a pointer variable. PTR is a pointer variable which points to a structure of the type student. So in the previous class we discussed these simple programs, and I have exhibited through some VS Code where C program was compiled, and I have shown the results. Please go through further once again the previous class or previous sessions video so that you can better understand, because throughout the syllabus you will be going through the same concepts again and again, and in that case we will not discuss again these concepts. So here we discussed nested structure, where the date structure is going to be used within this human being to just indicate that date of birth of a particular human being. So later we discussed how to use the dot operator when a structure is nested in another structure. DOB is nested in human being. So to access or to store a particular data into the member variables of a nested structure, we use this kind of format. And followed by we discussed the most important part of data structure called as the self-referential structure, where a self-referential structure is like we are going to use the node within node or the structure name within the structure. So as I told in the previous class, you need to clearly understand here that, say, whenever you encounter a variable declaration like int value, the compiler will understand that the value needs 4 bytes or 8 bytes depending on the machine. So it will reserve the memory, but here in this case it doesn't know how much memory, because here you are defining the structure but still again you are trying to assign the memory, but at the time of declaration of this statement, the compiler may not know how much memory that needs to be assigned, so it will go on indefinitely. So when it goes on indefinitely, the compiler cannot evaluate, and hence it will show error that it cannot allot the memory. So here this program is going to simply illustrate that concept where struct node next. So the structure node is going to be defined within which another member variable is going to be a node. So this node cannot happen to have a normal variable like this, which will demand an indefinite amount of memory, because again this next will be composed of data and next, another next will be consisting of data and next, so it will keep on demanding the memory indefinitely. So it depends an indefinite amount of memory which will control with a kind of error. Next has incomplete type, and it will throw a warning that it cannot allot the memory, and it is not possible to work out this particular program. So that is the main problem with self-referential structure. Throughout all the different linked list programs, doubly linked list program, or in many instances we use this self-referential structure. Be clear with this concept of struct node, where you are going to have a self-referential structure being defined without a pointer variable. So to solve this problem, we use a pointer variable. So when you use a pointer variable which points to itself, then in that case the problem will be solved, because in this case a definite amount of memory is going to be reserved. So normally it will be 8 bytes on Linux system, so you won't pose any kind of problem. So to avoid such problem, you need to clearly understand between the struct node new and here struct node star new. So you need to clearly understand why the memory is going to be indefinite in this case, why the memory is going to be definite in this case, because it is a pointer variable which points to some address which generally it will be 8 bytes, not more than that one. So you need to have a clear understanding about that one. And for today we will discuss unions and what you call the pointer variables. And union is also going to be heterogeneous data structure when compared to the structure, but it has got some difference. Like structure allocates enough space to store all its member variables, whereas union allocate the space to store only the largest member. So I'll repeat again, the structure allocates enough space to accommodate all its member variables, whereas union allocates the space to store only the largest member, whichever is the largest in the sense, say if you have int float character, so obviously float will occupy larger memory. So the only memory that is going to be assigned to the union among the 3 different types is only the float, 8 bytes, not like int size, data size plus float data size plus character. That happens only with respect to structures. So when you are going to define an union, it creates user defined data types. So that doesn't happen with the structure, as we defined in the previous session. When you want to define a new user defined data type with the structure, then you must use type def, whereas in the case of union, by default it creates a user defined data type. So here you need not explicitly make use of type def, by default it will do it. So to allocate a memory for a given union type and work with, we need to create variables. So here union, so here you have a union car, which is going to be the name of the car and its price. So here directly you are going to define it as union car1, car2, and a pointer variable which points to. So in this case, as I discussed earlier, the member variables of union can be accessed. If it is a normal variable, then you use the dot operator, or if it is a pointer variable, then you use the minus greater than, which combinedly you call it as a dereferencing operator, which can be used to access the price through the car3. If it is dot operator, then we use car1 dot price. If it is car3, then car3 dereferencing operator, and then car3 dereferencing operator followed by price, etc. So that the same way in which we used the structure, here also we use the dot and dereferencing operator respectively. So here the structures and functions. So an union or a structure can be passed as a parameter to a function. So here in this case a main function is available. A main function is available. So here you define a complex number, real and imaginary, as a structure. So here you define a function add which adds two complex numbers, and it is going to return back a complex number again. And repeat. So add is a function which accepts two member variables as x and y. It will sum up those x and y and it will return back the another structure. So that is what this structure. So it will add the respective real part and it will store it into t dot r real part, and imaginary part will be stored in t dot im, and it is going to return back. So x is of the type complex, struct complex, and y is also going to be of the type struct complex. So you scan the first complex number and or you scan or read the second complex number, you call the function and you print it. So that's how you use the dot operator. And here this the function here, the understanding here with respect to this is a structure can be passed as an argument, or an union also can also be passed as a function. So here, so that is about the structure where it can be passed as a function. Before understanding a pointers and the other related concepts, we will understand a simple example on how do you differentiate between an union and a structure. So how do you differentiate between union and structure is with respect to its size. As I told earlier, union is going to be allotted the memory whichever member variable is going to be the largest. So to illustrate that, we go through a simple program. So here if you find here union job, where it is going to have a character array, a float, and an integer data type. So where you define it as u job, which is going to be an union. Similarly, the same member variables, the three member variables which are going to be defined in a structure. So when you write it as, when you estimate the size of a structure, size of an union respectively, when you print it, the size of an union which has got the same three member variables in a union and in a structure, then the things will be clear. So when you run the program, what you get here is, so here you will be able to observe the output of the program, where it was supposed to print as here you will be able to observe the output as the size of union is 32 bits, whereas size of structure is 40 bits. So in my machine I am running this VS Code on Linux platform. I got for structure as the size of character plus the size of float plus the size of int. So totally I got it as 40, whereas when compared to union, the size of float is 32 bytes, so the size of union is 32 itself. So that is what the core difference between a structure and an union. So clearly understand how a structure is going to be make a difference with the union. So here the 32 and 40 is going to, the size of union when compared to structure is going to make a difference. So you can define structure within a structure, or union within a structure, or union within a union, or structure within a structure. Any way you can define. So in any manner you can define it. So we will move on to further topic on the concept called as the pointers. So what exactly do you mean by a pointer is, So here when you declare int xyz equal to 50. So in every C programming statement, in the initial portion of the program, you will be defining a statement like this: xyz is a variable name or an identifier. 50 is the value that you are going to store it into xyz, and every named variable is going to be assigned with some address. So the address will be, say here, for the sake of understanding, we consider it as 1380. So 1380 is the address where this 50 is going to be stored with a named entity called as the xyz. So here, to understand, why do you need the pointer variable? Suppose we assign address of xyz to a pointer variable p. Say if p has been declared as a pointer variable which points to integer data type, then we can assign like this: p equal to xyz. So in that case, what will happen is, so here you need to clearly understand this concept. As I earlier explained, xyz is a named entity or a variable which holds the value of 50, and it is going to be stored at the address of, say, 1, 2, 3, 4. And p is a pointer variable which is going to hold the address of, so ampersand indicates the address of xyz. Xyz is the named entity which is going to have the address. Now p is a pointer variable which is going to store the address of xyz. The address of xyz is 1, 2, 3, 4 is its value, and in turn p is going to have some address which is going to be the 5, 6, 7, 8. So you need to clearly understand this concept: normal variable and a pointer variable. Normal variable directly holds the value, whereas a pointer variable indirectly holds the value. So clearly try to understand this concept of pointers. So there are several cases where you need to clearly understand where to use and where to use the pointer variables, in which case it is going to be legal and illegal. So here in this case, pointing at a constant, clearly it is an illegal way of declaring a pointer variable. So I cannot say address of 235, it is totally wrong. It is illegal to use like this on a constant. So pointing, the other illegal way to use the pointer variable is, say here, int arr of 20. So arr is a named entity or a variable which is of the type array, because it is going to have a square braces and an 20, and it is going to be of the type, all the 20 elements will be of the type integers. So when I write it as ampersand of address, it is illegal. So by default, without ampersand, if you write it as arr, then it is going to point to, or it is going to have an address of, base address of the array, or the first index address that it is going to be having. So if you write it as ampersand of address, then it is going to be illegal to access the first variable. It is totally illegal to use like this. So never in the program, in your programs, try to use a pointer variable like this. And also the other third way of illegally using the pointers is, say, ampersand of a plus b. A plus b is an expression. Assume that a is going to be integer, b is going to be of the type integer. So using address of to a expression is totally illegal. So using address of operator to a expression is totally illegal. Never use it. So these are the three ways where usually people use the concept of pointers in a wrong manner. So just to clearly define, pointer variables must be declared, as with respect to every variable, it must be declared before we use them. So here how do you define this? Data type star pointer. So star is going to tell that the variable pointer name is a pointer variable which points to a data type called as, say, respective data type of the underlying language. So that is how you define. So here three entities are involved. One is this star or asterisk operator. We call it as a pointer operator itself, and the pointer variable's name and to which data type it is going to point to. So normally we understand the data type to be integer, float, character also. But also void here, void is also going to be a data type. When you declare it as void star PTR, PTR is going to point to a void. You understand that in C language, Even void is also going to be a data type. In later part we will discuss the usage of void in the pointers. Followed by here, just to explain where you may go wrong. Pointer variables must always point to data item of the same type. So here x has been defined as a float and p has been defined as a pointer variable which points to integer data type. I cannot say p is going to hold the address of a float value. So this is totally erroneous. So I cannot write like that. So it is usually this kind of mistake will happen while programming, where a pointer variable must always point to data item of the same type but not of dissimilar data type. So other kind of mistake that generally that happens in pointer programming is assigning an absolute address to a pointer variable is prohibited. So here int star count. So assigning an absolute address. So if by default if count is itself is going to be a kind of absolute address, you cannot do like that. So here to understand other concept of pointers is, once a pointer has been assigned the address of a variable, the value of the variable can be accessed using the indirection operator or the asterisk, or we generally call it as a pointer operator. So int a comma b, here we define a p as pointer variable which points to the integer data type. So p can be assigned either the address of a or the address of b because both of them are integer. So here when you assign b equal to star p, when you use these two instructions, p has been assigned the address of a and b is going to be holding the value of p. So it is as good as writing a single instruction as b equal to a. So these four instructions, declaration of ab pointer variable and assignment using the address of and value of, it is almost equivalent to b equal to a. So this is another clarity that you must have in your mind when you are going to make use of the pointer variables. So another clarity that you must have is, say here in this simple C program where you are going to have the two integer variables as a, b, and you have c equal to integer type, it is value 5, and here you have declared a p as pointer variable which points to the type integer, and here you have the two instructions, one a equal to 4 into c plus 5 and another one here you assign the address of c to the p. So here b equal to 4 star 4, so what you assigned is address of c is going to be there in p. When you write star p, so you are going to get the value stored at the address of c. So these two statements, c the a equal to 4 star c plus 5 and also b equal to 4 star p plus 5, both are same or both are equivalent instructions, because c's address is going to be stored in the pointer variable p. So it is as good as so when you print this, when you print, both a and b will be having the same value, both a and b will be having, because these two statements are equivalent. So you need to have a clarity when you are going to use, because quite often the programmer gets confused when you are going to use ampersand, star and normal variable, then definitely there will be some sort of confusion. Try to get clarified with this simple short C snippets which will clarify. And here when and where and how you can use the pointer variables, it is going to illustrate. You can use pointer variables to sum up, to multiply, or to add a constant, or to divide, etc. So likewise it can be added. So when you are going to add, so the difference between this instruction and this instruction is, when you don't demarcate with space, then definitely it will identify it as a pointer to pointer instead rather the original intent of the instruction. When you distinguish it with a round brace, you know that in C language always in the precedence is going to be safeguarded when you are going to make use of the round brace. Precedence is going to be safeguarded. So always preferably you use the round braces to avoid any conflict of resolution of precedence. And another thing that you need to understand while using pointers is what is allowed and what is not allowed. So add an integer to a pointer is allowed, subtraction of an integer from a pointer is allowed. Also you can subtract one pointer from the other is also going to be allowed. But what is not allowed is you cannot directly here if it is like a star p1 equal to star p1 plus star p2 it is allowed, but here directly I cannot use p1 equal to p1 plus p2, it is not allowed. Similarly with respect to multiplication and division, this kind of instructions are not going to be allowed. So you need to have this another clear distinction, clarity where to use what are allowed and what is not allowed. So also as I told, pointers can also be passed as, because pointers gives the reference to your address. So when you get the reference to a particular address, then whether you manipulate in global function or local function or any other function, it affects the global memory. But when it is local, the scope is going to be appropriate scope is going to be reflected. So you can use pointers to pass. Pointers are often passed to a function as arguments. So just to illustrate here, so this is a simple program which will swap. So here what you do is you have a equal to 5 and b equal to 20. So the values are going to be passed. So this is a program which is going to be call by value example. So a, b are going to be passed on to this function x and y. So here it will swap, and after swapping it is going to print it as 5. So here before swapping, after swapping, if you print, then you will understand how exactly the values are going to be printing. But when you pass it by reference, so earlier before swapping 5 and 20 were there, you are going to pass by value, but here when you print, you need to understand whether it is going to print the swapped values or not, even though here it is going to swap. But whereas when you pass it by reference, you are going to pass the reference or address of a to swap, which is going to be captured by pointer variable x. Now x is going to hold the address of a, y is going to hold the address of b. So when you print after swapping, definitely the values are going to be swapped, whereas in the previous case it won't happen like that. So that is where the pointers will play the crucial role. So through the pointer variable, address of any memory location can be manipulated. So always it is preferable, with a suitable knowledge you must use the pointers, otherwise it may access any random location. Say here how to use. So this simple explanation is going to be with respect to how to use pointer variables to manipulate the address. So x is going to be a single dimensional array which holds the 5 values. So x of 0 is going to have the value of 1, which is going to be stored at the say some random address 2500, and it's immediate because it is array, a homogeneous set of elements stored in sequential locations. So each integer, if you assume that it is going to occupy 4 bytes, 2500, 2504, 2508. So likewise each consecutive elements are going to be stored. So here this is a normal understanding of a single dimensional array. But when you use pointers, so x is going to be the base address of the array, x of 0's base address, and 2500, all the three are going to be the same. Whether you access only x, whether you access address of x of 0, the index of the first element, or the 2500, which is going to be the base address, all have the same meaning. So when you are going to have p equal to x, so assuming that p is going to be the pointer variable which points to an integer, because we defined x as integer. So here p equal to ampersand of x of 0 or p equal to 2500, all means the same. So here just to relate a pointer variable to x, p equal to ampersand of x of 0, or both of them are equivalent, p plus 1. So the next element within this single dimensional array is going to be accessed. It is not like 2500 plus 1, it is not like that, but it is going to be the next element. base address plus next element, base address plus the third element, fourth element, etc. So that is how you correlate the single dimensional array with the pointer variables. So you need to have a clear understanding here when you are going to assign single dimensional array, or how do you treat single dimensional array with respect to a pointer. So later, in later part of the syllabus, we will discuss it again with respect to the pointer to pointer. How do you correlate pointer to pointer with respect to the two dimensional matrix. So just to illustrate here, so just to understand the same concept, how do you correlate. So this for loop, so I have declared an integer array having 100 elements. So here I am going to scan all the 100 elements and store it. So that's how ampersand of x of k, it is going to, and it is going to, so you can find the average of function, average. So here in this case, so here I used ampersand of x of k, whereas in this case I try to use through the pointer variables I am trying to access it. So star of p plus I, when I equal to 0, then base address or the first element is going to be accessed. When I is equal to n, then nth index value is going to be accessed. So that is how the pointers are going to work with respect to a single dimensional arrays. So here when you are going to define this simple explanation applies when you are going to define a structure. So here a structure, a class, where how do you access it through member. This was explained when we explained the pointers. If it is a normal variable, structure variable, where there are 100 elements of the type structure stud, so each one is going to be accessed like this, either I, where I has got some integer value, or k, some which has got some integer value, etc, etc. So the same thing is going to be explained here. So here while accessing it, you need to understand why this ampersand is present here and why this ampersand is not present here. Because it is a character array, you need not mention ampersand. So this that is the intention of this program. When to use ampersand and when not to use the ampersand, because this is an integer float, but whereas this is array, so it is going to store directly into this address. That is why you don't use the ampersand. So you need to understand that, but the rest of the program is simple. So when using structure pointers, we should take care of operator precedence. As I told, every operator in C language has got some precedence. So member operator dot or dot operator has higher precedence than star. So when you are going to clubbing the star with the dot or dot with the dereferencing operator, then you must carefully use. So here in this case, PTR dereferencing role, or here both have the same meaning. Whether you write like this or whether you write like this, both have the same meaning. So also when you are going to use the dereferencing operator, then here in this case, plus PTR dereferencing operator of role will increment role, not pointer. It is going to increment the role value but not the pointer. So you need to have a if you place the round brace, then that will get clarified with respect to operator precedence. So absolutely there will be no confusion, otherwise always the confusion persists. And followed by, we discuss something about whenever we discuss any program on the pointer variables, we need dynamic memory allocation. Many a times we face situation where we need the memory not at the compile time but at the run time, because some instances will be there where at the compile time we may not be able to estimate or predict the amount of data that we need when the program is running. In that case, because always the amount of data that needs at the runtime is going to be keeps changing. So then in that case you need to use dynamic memory allocation. So when you use the dynamic memory allocation, the memory is going to be allotted at the execution or at the runtime, not at the compile time. So the C language supports allocation and freeing of memory location using some library routines that will be explained in the coming sessions. So here, when before understanding dynamic memory allocation, you need to understand what is a stack, what is a heap, what is a permanent storage. Permanent storage refers to the secondary storage devices, or where exactly your program or global variables or your instructions are going to get stored. Whereas heap is the place where all the dynamic memory gets allotted, or the place where the memory keeps increasing and decreasing or keeps changing. In that place, or the free memory is going to be allotted there, or the stack memory is going to be used by local variables, or whenever you call a function, the local variables are going to be stored and restored when a call to a local function happens. When a call to local function happens. So you need to clearly understand what is stack, what is heap, and what is permanent memory, and where the instructions are going to be stored, and where global variables are going to be stored, and where a free memory, and for what purpose the local variables and the stack is going to be used. So here we understand the four crucial dynamic memory allocation and deallocation function are going to be used. So many a times throughout the pointer variable functions, you will be using these four functions abundantly. So here what a malloc is, it is going to clearly understand these few concepts, because every program which uses the pointers will be using these two functions, malloc, and if you have used malloc, then it is a must that you must use free, otherwise there will be a memory leak. So what actually it does is allocates requested number of bytes and returns a pointer to the type void but not to the respective data type. I repeat again, allocates requested number of bytes and returns a pointer of the type void and points to the first byte of the allocated space. Understand? And again repeating, returns a pointer of the type void and points to the first byte of the allocated space. So because every time it points to the type void, so you need to definitely cast it. In C language, you must, by this time you might be knowing what you mean by casting and conversion. Conversion to some extent will be taken care implicitly by the compiler. If you want to force this void data type to be converted into the other data type, then you must cast it. So malloc always allocates a block of contiguous bytes sequential manner if it is available. Otherwise, in blocks, in chunk of blocks, it is going to be allocating. The allocation can fail also. The allocation can also fail if sufficient contiguous memory is not available. Then in that case, it will fail. If it fails, then it will return null instead of returning a pointer to the first location. So here the example will be P is a pointer variable which gets allotted with 100 into, say, if integer is going to occupy 4 bytes, 100 into 4, 400 bytes of data is going to be allotted by malloc, and it is going to be casted into integer type pointer because P is of the type integer. If P is of the type float, then you must cast it to float. So malloc does not initialize the memory area. Whatever the previously allotted garbage was there, that values will get retained. So you need to understand that malloc is going to initialize the memory with whatever the earlier content was there, it is going to be retained. It is not going to clear off. So malloc needs casting. Malloc is not going to initialize. So you must keep in these two concepts in mind. So another important function is, so say if in any C program, if you have used malloc, then definitely you must use at the end of the program free, which is going to free the allocated memory. So if you are not going to make use of the free function, then in that case you are going to not release that occupied memory, and hence it cannot be used by any other program at all. Even though the program exits, the memory will be occupied by the named pointer variable. So hence no other program will be able to use that particular memory. So hence it creates a memory leakage if you are not going to make use of the free. So that is why quite often in Windows your system gets slowed down because of such programs where it allocates the memory through malloc function, but it cannot, it will not de-allot, or it is not going to free the memory. If you are not free the memory, then operating system will understand that it is still being in use. So simple instances of simple programs which are not going to release, and FTL if they are going to be running, then in that case your system will slow down. So try to always use the free associated with malloc or any other dynamic memory allocation functions. So this simple program is going to illustrate how you can use the malloc and the free function. So here PTR is a pointer variable which points to int, and here n is this size, n is a say some how many locations that you want to assign it for a pointer variable. So if you get here n into size of this integer type, so many number of integer location, n number of integer locations are going to be get allotted through malloc function, and it is going to assign the first address through the pointer. So here I didn't use the casting here. So always because the malloc must cast, so you must cast it to appropriate data type. Say if pointer is equal to null, what does that mean is it has not allotted the memory at all. So if it has not allotted the memory at all, then it means malloc failed. Otherwise, if it has if the malloc is successful, then you proceed further and you try to get the input from the console and assign it to the respective PTR plus, as I explained here. PTR will access the first location, plus I will access ith location. It will get the value from the console and it will store into the appropriate place. So conversely you can use say sum plus equal to is sum equal to sum plus this value. So this is a simple program where you are going to use malloc, and at the end you must use free, otherwise you are going to slow down your system through memory leakages. Followed by the realloc function. Sometimes it so happens that we need to alter the size of the, earlier in the previous program we say I have allotted say only 10, when n is 10, then only 10 number of integer data types are going to be allotted with the memory. But if we want to suddenly increase at the runtime with more than 10 values, then in that case you need to realloc. So earlier some memory has been allotted through malloc, then only you can use the realloc. So when the memory is going to be more needed or memory allocation is larger than necessary, then in that case we use the realloc. So originally malloc has assigned some sized memory to PTR, but if you want to realloc, how much size you must know and to whom it has to be allotted. So that is where realloc. So at the runtime, if you want to allot a more memory for the allotted memory variable, allotted pointer variable, then you use the realloc. So it guarantees that old data remains in contact, and if it is unable to allocate, then it returns null. As with respect to the malloc, it also returns null if it fails, and frees the original block. So this you must be careful while using the realloc. So we'll move on to the simple programs. Here you have assuming that the PTR has already been allotted, so you use the realloc. If it is not able to, then if it is null, then it is failure. If it is not null, it allots successfully. But here in this case, to use either malloc or calloc or realloc or calloc functions, you must include stdlib.h. So this is simple program which illustrates the usage of realloc. And there is one more function called as the calloc in C language, which will be used along with malloc, realloc, calloc will be there. So C stands for the contiguous. So create memory dynamically at the runtime. So which serves the dynamic memory allocation function. So it accepts the two parameters. The first parameter will be number of elements, and the second parameter will be the size of the element. It will return the base address of an as with respect to the malloc, it also the same thing, but only the difference is earlier we discussed that the malloc will not initialize, but whereas calloc will initialize the memory to 0. So you feel the difference. When you want to initialize all the allotted memory with 0, then you use calloc. When you don't want any initialization, let the earlier content get retained, then in that case you use the malloc function. So that is the core difference between the malloc and calloc. So this is simple program which illustrates that concept. So we'll wind up for the day. In next class we'll discuss again the further topics on the in your first module. So for the day we discussed what is an union, how do you distinguish between an union and a structure, and also discussed the dynamic memory allocation functions. In the next class we will discuss a bit more on the further uses of the pointer variables with respect to multidimensional arrays. How do you use pointer to pointer, etc., along with simple programs like polynomials, what is a sparse matrix, etc., followed by the further topics. So thanks for watching, and see that you watch entire video, and also try to go through that Gettib programs, download those programs and try to run the programs. Then only you will feel what I taught, or you will feel the actual subject content. When you run the programs on your machine, then you will feel the concepts. So try to run those programs which I try to run in the video also. Thanks for watching. Thank you.